Holy crap, do we have another CGC bombshell to discuss today, folks. Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. If you folks aren't subscribed to the channel, please do so. I'm here almost every single day making content. Check out all the links in the description below as well. But let's get into this video. I can't believe this. It's really funny. Big shout out to Michael for leaving a comment on another video talking about saying how CBCS loses Steve Borak and CGC says, "Here, hold my beer." Michael, that was hilarious, and it's absolute truth here. So here we are today. Guys, CGC, this is posted on their official Facebook. They state, based on feedback from prominent members of the collecting community, CGC is implementing a change that will reduce the number of defects that are identified on the comic book label. Learn more about the update, accessing free CGC grader notes, and other changes being implemented to the CGC label using this link. And boy, look at this. I'm not even going to do that yet, but we got the link right here, folks. Let's read what they write. Parameters modified for defects listed on CGC labels. Because CGC members now have free access to grader notes, not as many defects will be listed on the certification label. I have issues in that right there. We will come back to that. Based on feedback from prominent members of the collecting community, CGC is implementing a change that will reduce the number of defects that are identified on the comic book label. Traditionally, certain defects were listed on the CGC label if they were present on a certified comic book, which were also recorded in the comic book's grader notes. Because CGC members now have free access to grader notes, issues with that, this redundancy is being eliminated from the label for the presence of the following defects. Here we go, guys. This is what you will no longer see on a label. Stickers, Siamese pages, punch holes, staples added after manufacturing, staples removed, detachments, fully split spine, tape, significant missing parts from the cover, lamination, miscuts, puzzles or coupons filled out. I'm going to go through each of these one by one here, but I want to continue to finish reading. CGC will continue to identify on the label any significant missing pieces, pages, wraps, or inserts from the interior of a comic. Each comic book's grade will reflect all missing parts, and those missing parts will be recorded in the grader's notes. CGC is discontinuing the use of the term incomplete on its label, as well as the terms affects story and does not affect story when parts are missing from the interior of a comic. The CGC label will continue to display restoration, conservation, and qualifiers as we have in the past, including married parts, color copies, wrong parts, coverless comics, individual wraps and pages, multiple covers, additional inserts, and unverified signatures on the cover. Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. First off, there's I think three main things that come to mind that are problematic. One is them resorting to the fact that all this information is redundant now because it's in the grader notes. That's a problem in and of itself that I'm going to address. Secondly, it seems that I'm a little confused because some of the things that they're saying are still going to be noted seem to correlate or overlap with some of the things that they're saying aren't noted. So it's a little confusing there. My biggest concern here is this. This creates a huge hole for even more lack of transparency. And it's going to hinder the ability for potential buyers to know the truth. Now, let's talk about grader notes and how this is redundant, so they say. First off, that means that they're going to need to note these issues in grader notes. So let's hope that they do that. Because as we all know, I've received comic books back from CGC that were 8.0s that didn't have any grader notes. Now, if we look at these, I'm assuming that if it has these, they're going to have to list them in the grader notes now. That's what I'm going to assume. But this is just an assumption, right? I mean, if you look at, there's just depending on the grade. I don't know if they're saying that there could be a little piece of tape and it could be a higher grade, but they're going to have to note that there's a tape on it in the grader notes. Punch holes. Some of these things are obvious. Punch holes are obvious. So, well, at least if they're on the cover, right? If they're on the inner pages, we wouldn't know because the book is encapsulated. Stickers, any of this, if it's on the cover, I'm okay. If a sticker's on the cover, I'm okay because it's on the cover. Punch holes to the cover, that's okay. Staples added though. Sometimes you can't, it's not easily seen. Staples removed. That's not easily seen. Detachments, that's not easily seen. And again, because these books are encapsulated in a slab. A fully split spine. Sometimes it's hard to see spine splits in the slab. Tape, again, if it's on the cover, Missing parts of the cover, significant, okay. Again, it's to the cover. That's fine with me. Lamination, again, I mean, it depends on how obvious it is to the eye with the book sitting in the slab. Miscuts, I could go left or right with that. Puzzles or coupons filled out, that's problematic because it is inside the book. So, how does this become detrimental to potential buyers? If I'm a buyer and I do not have a CGC membership that gives me access to the grader notes, because you can see the barcode, right? And you can access grader notes. I'm not going to have access to those grader notes. So what is that going to do? It's going to make me have to trust that this seller is either listing, if it's on eBay or whatnot, they're telling me, or they're listing, whatever the case may be, whatever platform I'm buying it from. They have to be transparent in letting me know that this book has a missing cutout and it affects the story. Or this book has a spine split or staples removed, or it's detached. I have to trust the seller that they're going to be doing that. But the seller's only going to know if they're a CGC member. They're only going to have access to those grader notes if they're a CGC member. What if the seller isn't a CGC member and the potential buyer isn't one as well? What if the seller isn't the individual that sent that book off to get graded? Now you have multiple parties, the selling party and the purchasing party, maybe not knowing about all of these defects. Wow. CGC is discontinuing the use of the term incomplete on its label, as well as the terms affect story and does not affect story when parts are missing from the interior of a comic. Those right there are the death blow. We can be potentially buying or selling a CGC blue label book, a universal certified grade book, and we might not know if it's incomplete. We might not know if there's something missing that's affecting the story. Why? Because, in my humble opinion, and this is my humble opinion, I don't know what CGC exec sat there and said. I mean, they said, after what do they say? After feedback. Based on feedback from prominent members of the collecting community, or is that feedback from your executive board? or now that you're owned by Blackstone, you know, your shareholders? I don't know. I can't make an assumption. That you think that members of the community think that this is a good idea? Or maybe CGC members? To me, again, I don't know. This is my opinion. I could see this as an attempt for CGC to maximize revenue by getting more memberships. Why and how? Because now you're not just going to be you don't want to just be a CGC member because you're sending in books to get graded, whether you're doing it to sell or flip, or whether you're sending in books for your PC. Now, simply if you're buying books, you might want to be a member to know what you're buying, especially if you're in the market to buy blue chip keys, or if you're putting out $400, $500, $600, $700 plus dollars for a blue label book. Now, you know what they used to say? That's why I buy graded. That's why I buy graded, because at least you know. You know if there's color touch, if it's restored, which is, you know, I know that that's still, they're still going to keep that restoration purple label fine. I know if there's, you know, if it's complete or incomplete. I know what the grade is, even though the grade's subjective. I get, you know, I get that peace of mind with the blue label. Not anymore. You might be better off buying raw now, because you can ask the seller, can you take pictures of inside the book to make sure it's complete? Can you do a little video, flip through the book? Or if you're buying it from somebody in person and they have a blue label slab and you're like, hey, is this book complete? Well, I don't know. I don't have the grader notes because I'm not a CGC member. Well, can I crack the slab real quick to look? No, you can't. But if you had a raw book and you asked them to pull it out of the Mylar or out of the bag and say, hey, can we flip through this book together to see if it's complete? You can. How ironic that we just sat here and I did my video. Is Steve Borak leaving CBCS a checkmate move for CGC? And I didn't say that it was. I said this could be a good beginning of a new for CBCS. But a lot of people, you know, probably are like, oh, CGC, now they got another upper hand. We could say what we want about the price increases from CGC. Look, you know, I see both sides of that argument, okay? CBCS increased their prices too. Nobody talked about it. But this right here, now I know I haven't processed it. I've had like an hour or two to process this. But where I'm at right now, there's a lot of good things about CGC. There's a lot of things that I don't think are good about CGC. That I could throw both on the table. I could say that about every grading company. Every grading company. There's pros and cons. I think this has to be one of the biggest mistakes CGC has made. Look, I am all for doing the graders notes for members. I'm all for that. Now, if it was me, I'd make it public. But look, if you want to use it as a marketing ploy, fine. And use it as a way to start putting more graders notes on more of your books too, because they've been so laxed. Getting 8.0, 8.5 books with no grader notes. Why is it an 8.0? I don't know. Fine. Be more consistent with grader notes. Let the members who pay a fee get access to them. But to remove, and like I said, some of these up here is fine. I mean, okay, stickers, tape, punch holes, okay, but this. Discontinuing the use of the term incomplete on its labels, as well as the terms affect story and does not affect story. When parts are missing from the interior of a comic, no. CGC, please. If somebody that works at CGC, if somebody that has ends at CGC, look, I'm being as middle of the road as I can. I'm not throwing you under the bus, CGC. I'm not. And if you're going to change some of these other things around, fine. But for the sake of all things comic books, for the sake of the grading industry, for the sake of the support that we've given you for 22 years, can you not take away the term incomplete and affect story or does not affect story from the blue label of your slabs? For the life of me, I do not fathom this at all. At all. We already could argue the lack of transparency in the grading process, the lack of transparency in not giving books grader notes that come back 8.0s, 8.5s, 9.0s, 9.2s, etc. This is not okay. It's not. I have a lot of processing to do, folks. I have a lot of thinking to do. And I think all of you do as well. I'm going to leave you all with that today, folks. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Big shout out to A1 Comics for A1 Wednesday. Check them out live every Wednesday and Friday. Live sales on the IG. Their information is below. Let me know your thoughts, everyone. Be well, and until next time.